A huge info drop has just landed in-game in Rise of Kingdoms, bringing formations, new talent trees, information about a new KvK format, new commanders, and more. So stick around in this video for a first impression of everything that's on its way in-game in November. Hello my friends and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming and today's video is sponsored by the makers of Rise of Kingdoms, and I gotta give a big shout out to Ruz who tagged me and sent me a link to this. This is in the in-game forum, but I'll also have a link in the description if you want to check this out later yourself. Also a shout out to Shumi who sent me a link to this. So if I cruise on through, there's a lot of information that we've got to get a look at here. It's all in picture form, and we can cruise through each of these different pictures. Greetings, Governor. With the Rise of Kingdoms Grand Anniversary celebration underway, our dev team is here to share with the community what to expect and answer some of your pressing concerns for the future of Rise of Kingdoms. And let me tell you, these are big changes for the future of Rise of Kingdoms. If I scroll on down, it says, when will the new season storyline be released? The new season story is scheduled to be released in early November this year. With two brand new season storylines in development, the team is focused on polishing gameplay and scripts. Having taken valuable feedback from our players during the testing phase, we are dedicated to sharpening our storylines and improving the gameplay design this year. I think it's really good to run different scenarios for the end game, that's KvK Season 4 and beyond, through a lot of testing before ultimately putting it in front of everybody. Maps and terrain, the new storyline to be released in November, will see improvements and changes in the many aspects of the game, including the map layout, the camp composition, social dynamics, specific rules of the gameplay, and take a peek at our new map in the picture below. So in the new storyline, players will be divided into two camps. Each camp will have 3 starting points from which players take on others in 3v3 battles. The new update will also bring back the team mode that, similar to Light and Darkness, to bring new possibilities in diplomatic, strategic gameplay as well as striking visuals. We've designed a stunning asymmetrical map, and a new map kingdoms of the same camp will have to develop on their own and fight their way across the map before they can finally join their allies. I definitely worry, by the way, about an asymmetrical map in terms of like how you make balance and fairness. It is interesting that you fight your way toward your allies, you don't start with them. The new storyline is set in a backdrop of the fight for the throne in the aftermath of Ark of Osiris, with the terrain set predominantly in the Egyptian deserts. After the death of Osiris, who will be the new king? Will Seth keep the throne after his brutal murder of his brother, or will Horus, the son of Osiris, avenge his father? You governors will decide. Okay, so this says work in progress for illustration purposes only on the map over here, but they're showing just a bunch of zones, and this looks a lot like the new KvK Season 1 design. They've got Camp Horus, AABB, Camp Seth, AABB. It says work in progress for illustration purposes only, so I'm not sure how much we should look into this, so let's just keep going for now and talk about talents. In the new update, Governor's gameplay focus will expand from city management and troop command, introducing the all-new talent system. Players will now have many pathways for developing talents and skills. In each season, governors will need to set their strategic focus, whether it be field battles, siege wars, or city development, so make sure to allocate talents and skills accordingly, but we believe the new talent system will bring greater strategic depth and nuance to the game. So I think this could be interesting, but I worry with the categories they've mentioned here. Like if I have to choose between developing my city and economics versus like war stuff, like there's not actually a choice there. If I have to choose between rallying and field fighting, like I just question, like, is that fun? Because I want to field fight, I might want to rally, and I want economic bonuses. So hopefully these are things I can do maybe all of, and I'm not making sacrifices that sort of, I don't know, make it so I'm missing out on some other part of KvK that I really like to play. But they've only shown a couple things here in the support seasonal strategy. It looks like in the upper right, there's a number of strategy points that you get. Those points are limited. And in the support tree, they chose Quick March, Vigor, which is probably AP recovery, and Terrifying Display, which seems to be something war-related, and then they're converging again over here. So these trees do seem to have some depth to them, and presumably they apply to your city. Again, I'm on board for this sort of a thing. I'm on board for choices. But I definitely have concern if those choices are limiting the ways that I can enjoy gameplay during a season by making me focus on either rally or garrison or fielding or economics. But I'll definitely have more information on that once we can see what the actual trees are and more information about how they work. Will improvements be made to the KvK matchmaking mechanics? Yes. The team has always been working to optimize the KvK matchmaking mechanics, particularly in Season of Conquest. The matchmaking mechanism during Season of Conquest will also be interconnected to the KvK stories, as the team mode will allow for more strategic depth and social interactions. Now, a lot of this will seem really familiar, by the way, from an official Rise of Kingdoms account tweet. It was in Japanese, but I translated it and covered a lot of this in depth. So subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, so you don't miss info drops just like this one as soon as they land. And I'll remind you of that other video for some additional details about all these things, which I have covered in the past from an official source months, maybe a month before this. Anyways, next up, when will we see ranged combat in game? Now, along with what I was just describing, they mentioned before that ranged combat was coming to Rise of Kingdoms. Now, along with the new storyline, the full ranged combat experience will also be available in early November of this year. Many players might be aware that we're currently developing a ranged combat feature, but that's only part of the show. We've been developing a whole new set of gameplay features tentatively named the Formation System. The new system will take playability and strategic nuance to a different level in combat, battlefields, unit types, and more. Our bold changes will revolutionize the gameplay experience by adding a new dimension of depth to the battlefield. Players will be able to enjoy much more realistic experience, making the most strategic use of their unit types in combat. With this said, we'd like to reveal some of the upcoming changes. Now, just a quick reaction to this idea is that, from my perspective, the PC version added immense strategic depth to the way you can play the game without changing the game at all. And I think my 2 cents would be that making combat easier and smoother when there are large fights, so you can more cleanly see what's happening, target more effectively, rage transfer more cleanly. That, to me, would add all the strategic depth I really need. So hopefully this doesn't add further kind of clutter and things to unpack and see all on the screen all at once, while also trying to battle in the field. But let's get a look at these formations here, because obviously formations were a huge part of historic combat. The formation system allows users to make the most use of each troop type, the siege weapons included. So siege units relevant again? Question mark. With the introduction of formations, the spatial positioning of different troop units will become a fundamental part of gameplay. For example, ranged troops can snipe enemies from afar. Melee units, on the other hand, can deal immense damage and establish a defensive line against an enemy advancement at close range. Alongside this, existing game features such as resource gathering and mobility will also be enriched by formations, which I find surprising. So the hollow square formation, the wedge formation, the echelon formation. Adding an all-new dimension for growth, the formation system will offer rich content and usher in fresh ways to play. By combining ranged and close combat strategically, players can find their unique niche on the battlefield. Again, from my perspective, huge wins would simply be making it easier to see what's kind of happening on the battlefield. This, to me, feels like an additional thing I need to see what's happening for. And like, certainly I'm playing with simplified graphics on at all times, so it would be very hard to actually see these formations if that was important information. I'm sure they'll have some other graphic or display, but I think the direction I personally might have gone with this is just making it really, really clear to see kind of what's on screen already and adding more options for mobile gameplay to reflect what is possible in PC gameplay. But let's keep going here. Combat. To achieve the synergy effect of a combination of ranged and close combat, we're allowing for optimized use of different troop units. We're also introducing the collision system, allowing players to form front and rear lines, giving them more options in their troop positioning and strategies, whether they're up close to the enemy or attacking from a distance. We'll add a troop behavioral option that will allow players to choose whether or not to engage in battle. So this, by the way, is already in a KvK story, and I am worried about what that experience is like and how fun it will be. I will say I chatted with a friend who's in 1v previously, and they think it's actually really strategic. So is it more fun than open field combat because I think we're eliminating open field combat as we know it today for this new combat system. So we'll see kind of what this looks like, but I'll have a card up in the top and remind you of it at the end, what the collision system is, and also how new stances work in the power-up version of Heroic Anthem KvK. From here, we can talk about the visuals. We put a ton of effort into the visual design of the new system and plans to add formations and weapons historically used by different civilizations. For example, the triple bow ballista, known for its killer accuracy. Dude, does this mean we might get some civilizations with a siege unit specialization? Hello? We also iterated its historical design to better fit the gameplay and art style. So the triple bow, and then this looks like some sort of ballista. Okay, well, definitely interesting. Plans for new commanders, both prime commanders and new regular commanders, are in development and will be released periodically. This is a commander preview for late 2022. This is what they're going to look like, potentially. We'll be introducing brand new Season of Conquest commanders over the second half of this year. So, wait a minute. Season of Conquest commanders. Hello? We just got commanders. It is September, the end of September. So, presumably, like, we have a little bit of time, but for those of you that are like, I'm going to spend all my sculptures and then, like, 2 months later, maybe invest in something new, just pump the brakes a little bit. Like, this could come really, really quickly. I mean, it's practically October at the time of this recording. New commanders by the end of the year, I mean, we're looking at like a 6-week cycle for new commanders. Just brace for impact. If these are commanders that you need to invest sculptures in, and not commanders that you get as a part of a KvK story, which you might, the developers hinted at that potentially being a thing somewhere else, then, I don't know. Hold on to sculptures is all I'm trying to say, because if we're getting new commanders right away, this could be a pretty big deal. What are the plans for new civilizations? New civilizations are another very important part of our development plans for this year. Following the introduction of the Egyptian civilization, we've been working tirelessly on another. Now, I would have assumed they'd just wait till summer of next year for a new civ, but they say creating a new civilization is a highly complex process. Having completed our preliminary research, we've decided on our new civilization and are now conducting in-depth research. By the way, this is a process I've covered separately when Lilith did a video of their HQ and interviewing one of the game designers. In fact, I think it was the lead designer or lead producer. Our design team pores over pages and pages of historical materials so we can accurately portray our civilization symbols, colors, clothing, and more. Our art team is currently sketching the preliminary designs, making sure our game can be accurate and retain Rock's classic art style. The new civilization is scheduled to meet players in the first half of 2023. That's it for today, and Rise of Kingdoms epic battles take place everywhere and anywhere, every second of the day. We truly appreciate the passion and dedication of governors for the game. Wish you had a great anniversary, and enjoy the game. So, again, my 2 cents here on this one is that these are really big changes. I hope they are season-only changes and not, like, everywhere changes. If they are everywhere changes, and it looks like that might be what some of these changes are, then it's going to be really interesting to see how formations and collisions work. Specifically, I will say open field combat as it stands is really, really fun, but at times it's a little bit difficult to see everything that's happening all at once, especially if there's a lot of players. So from my perspective, if it moves us closer in the direction of being able to have a really clean understanding of everything that's unfolding on the screen at once, that could be pretty cool. My only concern is that there's just already a lot to see, and there's so many marches on the screen and big fights. Will it be easier or harder to feel like I can play more skillfully? Honestly, I'm still taking in all this information, and I will have many more reactions over the coming days, so be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And in the end card, there's going to be a bunch of those videos I was mentioning right over there and right over there, where I talked about a lot of this stuff in the past with some additional information. For example, ranged equipment. So that video will be right over here in just a second.